Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily podcast, a place where you can keep informed of the latest business and tech trends by listening to stories of other people in your field and how they are overcoming challenges with emerging technologies. Join me in learning from the guests actionable tips and lessons learned to obtain greater clarity on how you or your business can leverage technology. Now, I recently came across a company called HED. And what put them on my radar was their belief that great design is about thinking creatively to overcome challenges and improve real-world outcomes. And they believe that all facets of design, from architecture, consulting, engineering and planning, must create a positive impact for their clients, the community, and even the world through responsive, innovative and sustainable design solutions. And after reading this, it occurred to me, I have never associated architecture and technology until I discovered this company. So I invited Todd Drouillard onto the podcast to learn more about his experiences, observations and insights, and also how the worlds of architecture and technology collided for him. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to Detroit, where Todd is waiting to join us today. So a massive warm welcome to the show, Todd. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Sure. I'm Todd Drouillard. I'm a sector leader. I'm also an architect with a firm called HED. We're headquarters in Detroit, but we have offices around the country.
So I've got to ask, as an architect, I'm curious how those worlds, or the world of architecture and technology, collided for you. So can you remember where your passion for tech came from, or the moment that put you on this path, or ultimately, what's your origin story?
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, it really started in college. When I started, we started to hand draw, but the computer was around. It just wasn't as used as much, right? We were still doing hand drawings and rendering. And then quickly, it really started to revolutionize quickly when I was in school. And what I remember first was realizing that the computer and the technology that was coming of age, with everything from scanning to digital photography to all these other things, could be meshed, and found out pretty quickly what a great tool it could be to our work. And just when you started to move on and work in offices, 3D scanning and all these other great things, and it became quite a passion of mine to adopt those and to use those in my everyday work. It was great.
And of course, it was that path that would eventually lead you to HED. So can you tell me more about the story behind the company and how you think creatively to overcome challenges and actually improve real-world outcomes?
Yeah, it's a good question. A lot of the architecture firms have, at least the larger ones, have been early adopters of technology. Started with obligated drafting, but quickly we started to realize that trying to build these cardboard or chipboard models, that it can be all done through 3D graphics and through programs that actually build. And now, fast forward, and now all of our designs are all done in a three-dimensional drafting where that's easily adaptable to create these 3D images. So HED has been around since I believe it was 08 into the Detroit area, and we've changed names and ownership many times. But one thing has kind of rang true, that we've been kind of true to the Midwestern Detroit innovation. So what we bring is a full practice of 3D architecture and engineering. And I think a lot of that has to do with following in the footsteps of the automotive giants that we all do work for around here.
And I'm conscious we will have a few people listening hearing about HED for the very first time. So could you just offer a slight overview of the kind of problems you're helping businesses solve?
So the biggest problems that we seem to help out with is the idea of space. A client comes to us and they may have a piece of equipment, they may have a staffing issue, and they're trying to find out how much space they really need or need to use. So by using the 3D technologies, it really helps what advance the project and advance the practice. The number one thing that we try to do in our work is to avoid construction problems down the road. So by doing work in a 3D like environment, we are able to avoid collisions with piping and ductwork or walls and doors. So we kind of shake those things out in a 3D world before it gets built, because everybody knows once it gets off like paper, kind of speak, it gets really expensive to make a change after construction.
And you're right at the heart of some pretty significant technological change right now. And many are saying that the future is electric, and the automobiles and the supporting industries are all investing heavily in electric battery technology, testing and manufacturing, etc. So I'm curious, do you think we are at the beginning of an electrical revolution of sorts? And what trends are you seeing over there in the US?
Absolutely. What, if anything, it's already off to a pretty strong start. Yeah. All of the major like automotive light manufacturers have all new models and how many new EV vehicles are going to come out. We've been seeing a slow shift from like obviously from the combustion style hub-like engine to more of to like electrical to hydrogen and other alternative fuels. One thing that we've been seeing quite often is most of our projects now have something to do with some type of battery or electrical motor. So it's increasing the power to the building, like upgrades, converting old like engine cells into battery cells. So then they can test like the batteries or the drivetrains. And it's been going on. And again, it's been this heavy like emphasis on reducing the fossil fuels and increasing coal-like usage. So it's kind of I would say it's like a double-edged sword, but in order to increase your electrical needs, you need to offset that with some type of, so it's more power, more need for a power grid that can support that. So really the large change of driving gas-powered vehicles for the last 100 years, turning that into electric is going to be huge. Everything from where do you charge? How much can you charge? How many chargers can your building or home support? So that's going to be a big change.
Yeah, 100% with you. And so much has changed over the last couple of years. And of course, the pandemic has increased shipping issues, and that also forced companies to possibly rethink their real estate needs too. So how are you seeing things like shipping, logistics and delivery companies investing in technology? Are there any big trends you're seeing there?
Huge. So another part of our work is we do work for the large, like Amazons and whatnot. And something that we've been seeing a lot of is like automation within the warehouse, the use of automatic retrieval to actually bring the like product out. And it's really stemmed from our need to go onto our laptops and click a button and have a good delivered to our home within a day to 2 days. I mean, that's revolutionary. And so the need to actually stock products more locally has created these giant like warehousing needs for these companies. And the need to have the product delivered directly to your home rather than you going to a brick and mortar store and trying to buy this good. So one of the things that we've been seeing is a kind of like an increase to actually like automate and make the warehouse more efficient, because the goods are in and they're out, and there's a science behind the reasons why when you go up to look for a good, the ones that are local to you pop up first. There's a reason there. And so the warehouses know this. They know what's hot and what's not. The other part that we've been seeing in the pandemic is, just the need for less stores and more warehousing. And it's just been a big trend that we've been starting to see on like our business.
And another big trend, of course, is around the workplace. We could even debate, what is the workplace now? It's no longer located to or isolated just to the office. It can be at home. It can be anywhere in the world as long as you've got a computer and a Wi-Fi connection. So how are you seeing technology and facility updates changing how organizations conduct business too?
Well, even in our own like office, we have clients calling us quite often, coming back and saying, we need to reinvent our workspace. And a lot of it comes down to, we don't need as much room as we did before. And it's all stemming from if your employee has an opportunity to work from home or to work remotely, it's been a huge driver to actually keep employees. Some of ours have even said, if we don't do something, we'll lose staff. So the idea to kind of rethink the workplace, shrink it down, create more of a collaborative work environment, and have a lot of technology within the room. So anything from video cameras that can turn or monitors that are more suitable for a workspace. The biggest part that we're seeing now is the reduction of the enclosed office to more the free addressing workbench style. So it does take a little less space, but you have to put more emphasis on the collaboration. Our world and even our own personal offices as well. We've been going through and evaluating our workspace needs and trying to right size to the new workplace.
And another observation during the pandemic, we saw a wave of reuse and adaptation of pandemic vacated office space to laboratory environments, especially to support tech products and life sciences and invention and production of innovative products. Can you tell me more about any observations or insights that you saw around that time? And what do you think that means for the future?
Yeah, a lot of the landlords who owned properties and whose offices were reduced or shrunk, and even from a warehousing side as well. They saw a massive, plus of old office space. And the property owners and the developers saw that, of course, the science and tech side with lab environments. There was a huge need, and mostly in major populated areas such as the West Coast, the East Coast, and somewhat in the Midwest. We've been seeing kind of an increasing need to convert existing office into laboratories, and the return on investment can be a little longer. But of course, as you can imagine, what an office space for a cost per square foot build is way different than a lab space. But if you could find a tenant that needs that space for long term, it's definitely a business plan that developers should look into, because the space itself is way more valuable than an office space.
And today we've discussed just a handful of tech trends, challenges, and solutions. So what is your big focus ahead, and what's next for you?
Our big focus here is really trying to grow some of our offerings to a national stage. We were founded in Detroit, and slowly we grew out towards the West Coast to Los Angeles and those markets there. And we've only grown since then. One of the biggest things that we're trying to do is to make sure that all of our offices are working in the same environments. And we've done that. And really, the lockdown or the times that we're in, sharing information and resources across all offices has become a lot easier. Amazingly, what the use of Zoom and Teams and all those other online platforms has made collaboration seamlessly done through laptops, and it's really been a great thing. What's next for us? I believe we're going to try to grow these markets, and the markets we're looking to grow in is obviously in the science and manufacturing. Healthcare is a great side of our work. K through 12 schools, and then the higher ed arenas are kind of the big hot points. We also have a pretty strong mission critical work as well.
And I'm also curious from a personal point of view, because obviously I can just tell that you're incredibly passionate about this area. So what excites you about the future? And are there any tech trends that you're monitoring that excite you too?
One of the biggest tech trends that I've been seeing come across is this idea of 3D printing. And not only printing in a model sense or a prototype, actually producing parts and products in through 3 dimensions. One of the biggest ones that I've seen is a thing called metal additive printing. And it's the ability to actually make metal parts, and they just kind of grow organically in these printers. And to be able to make a prototype and a production within really quick time frame. That's, I think, something that's really, I think, going to take storm. We're really going to change things for us in the future.
Now, we started the podcast today talking about your origin story, but I now want to, as we come full circle, ask you to leave something for the listener about something that has inspired you throughout your whole journey there. So is that a book that you would leave us with that we can add to our Amazon wish list, and maybe a story behind that choice too?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There's a book called Bold, and it's by Peter Diamandis and Stephen Coulter. And, what the great thing about this book, Bold, is it really makes you, what a lot of times being in the profession that I am, the architect, like engineering side, we tend to be very linear, like in our thoughts and like the way we think. The great thing about the book, Bold, is it kind of puts you out of that comfort zone and makes you think on a bigger scale, how big impact. So the book goes through quite a few stories, and one is a very story that actually most people may or may not know, but how Kodak film came about. He started out just trying to fix a problem. And at first, his problem was to not have to develop film right on site, right? How do you put this film like into a roll? So really the Kodak name and like the company came out of a product solution, but ended up being one of the biggest products of the 20th century. So even though film is now obsolete, but going back to the year 1878, it was kind of a big thing. So not thinking linear and thinking bold and big is how that company became as successful as it was. And so that book kind of changed the way that I started to think about the world and the way that technology can change things. Not trying to look at the next step, is trying to think about it a little bit bigger, a little bit bolder.
Love that. Well, I'll get that added to our Amazon wish list. And I'm conscious we have covered a fair amount of information today. And anyone that wants to find out more information about HEAD, how you're advancing our world, especially through innovative technology, what's the best starting point for everything, and find out more information and contacting your team?
Sure. The best way is to do some research on us. Go to our website, which is heishd.design, DESIGN. And again, if anybody wants to reach me, I'm T Drouillard, DROUILARD at HED.design. Love to chat.
Awesome. Well, as I said a few moments ago, we covered so much information in a short amount of time. Now, I do urge people to check you out. I love what you're doing there, so check out the website. I'll get that added to the show notes so people can find you nice and easily. But more than anything, just thank you for sitting down and taking the time to share your story with me today.
Great, Neil. Thank you as well.
I know you have unique experiences and insights, and I want you to be part of this conversation. And there are many ways that you can contact me. Simply email me at techblogwriter@outlook.com. If you would like to slide into my DMs and send me an audio message on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok, you can find me at Neil C. Hughes. So it goes without saying a big thank you to Todd for coming on here and sharing his story today. And as for each and every one of you listening, just a big thank you for listening. And until next time, don't be a stranger.